Hello folks, and welcome to the paddock here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya for the 2020 Spanish Grand Prix. Will Buxton and Lawrence Baretto with you, fresh off the plane and fresh into the stifling summer heat.
Oh, it's hot.
It really is hot. Breaking news to bring to you, and it relates to Racing Point and the appeals process.
So what's happened at this point in time is that McLaren, Williams have decided not to follow through with their intention to appeal, whereas Ferrari, Renault and Racing Point have decided to follow through. They had 96 hours to decide if that's what they wanted to do, and they've decided that the case is worthy of the International Court of Appeal.
Now, a lot of water has passed under the bridge since we last spoke to you on this topic. Team Boss press conference saw some old wounds opened, some old wounds healed, and some, well, quite incredible comments coming out of some of the team principals. Zak Brown, who doesn't normally sort of speak in that way, saying that having heard the protests from Racing Point pre-season about copying everything from photographs to see their admission of a transfer of information meant that their claims were BS, as he put it. It was big words.
He was furious,
yeah,
really, wasn't he? And he didn't hold back. He was very animated throughout the press conferences when he talked to you guys in the pen as well. Yep. He, together with Claire Williams and Cyril Abiteboul, they were upset as well because they don't feel that the decision and the verdict and the penalty are very fair, and they want real answers. And that's why I think we've reached this point, even if a couple of those teams aren't pushing through with the appeal.
Yeah, that's why they notified the FIA of their intention to appeal. It led to Otmar Safnauer saying that Zak Brown didn't know what he was talking about, should stick to historic racing. It was like old school F1, a lot of fights, but a fascinating alliance being formed at that time between Ferrari, McLaren, Williams, the three most storied teams in F1 history, the three teams with the most starts of anyone to ever compete in the sport, along with Renault, also in the top 10 on race starts. Quite a group to form an alliance. And then come Sunday morning, something, I don't think I've seen anything like it in my 20 years in the sport, that statement and that video from Lawrence Stroll, who, you say Zak Brown was fuming. Lawrence Stroll doesn't make many public appearances. He was not just upset, he was angry.
I think that's what was so significant, is the very fact he spoke at all. And we don't ever hear from Lawrence Stroll, but he is furious about the way that his team have been portrayed.
Yeah.
He wants to defend them because at the heart of it, it's his pride that's at stake. Yeah. And he doesn't believe that he's cheated. So he released this almost presidential-like statement saying how he was appalled at the decision and how he was disappointed by the poor sportsmanship of his rivals. And he wants answers. There's no real surprise, really, that they follow through with their intention to appeal.
Absolutely incredible. I can't recall anything like it. Really quite amazing, but showed the strength of opinion, the strength of feeling. And so we stand here now 2 days later. Things haven't stood still, though. The teams and the FIA have been working together, we understand it, behind the scenes, to try and either close the loophole or bring some sense of ease to those who felt the most aggrieved.
So what happened on Sunday mornings, the team principals got together. Toto Wolff even made an appearance as well.
Yes, was he invited or not?
Well, this is what's unclear. We're not sure whether he was invited or he just turned up. Notably, there weren't all the team principals there. I believe that Ferrari, Matteo Binotto, decided that it wasn't a meeting for him. He didn't feel like he could actually say anything or he could make any progress there. So I think that's notable. But I think, yeah, at that meeting that happened, and they sent out a letter, the FIA, to the teams, essentially saying that they want to push through. They want to show that Formula One has a future and define it, and it's not about copycatting, and they're going to get to the bottom of this and prove to the teams that they can make a solution.
So essentially the loophole that was created by this decision, the FIA have moved to say, look, this will not be legal in 2021. We want this erased from the sport by 2021. This will not happen again. The so-called grandfather clause as well, about kind of like older parts and the transfer of that information and whether you, I believe, develop it, also will be closed down. Now, some teams, it appears, consider this to be enough, others don't, and I think that's what's led us to here today. Racing Point obviously will appeal the decision. Lawrence Stroll is going to throw everything at it, and you don't want to go up against that guy with the resources at his disposal in court. But two teams will, Renault and Ferrari. Two teams won't, McLaren and Williams. Who wants to take which?
Why don't you take Williams and McLaren kick off?
And you take Renault and Ferrari.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. So, Williams, and we spoke about the FIA and coming to this agreement of, trying to, well, not trying to, but closing this loophole down, shutting it down for 2021. Williams, I think, in a position whereby they can look at this year and say, well, if Racing Point continue to run these rear brakes, fine. It's not going to affect us. It's not going to affect our championship position. What's important to Claire, what's important to the team is the DNA of the sport, where it goes to, what is a constructor. And by closing this loophole off for 2021, I think Williams believes that's enough. Also, with the likes of Ferrari and Renault taking this to appeal anyway, whatever else is there to be worked out will get worked out in the long run. For McLaren, I believe it's something similar. Zach Brown, I think the noises he was making last time out were very much a shot across the bows for anyone else to say, I won't stand for this, I won't be moved. This is what I believe Formula One should be. Boom, there's my stand. I'm putting my stall out. So have that. His BS line, I think, was that. But then at the same time, Renault brought the original protests. You don't get bigger teams in Formula One than Ferrari. And so when those two are carrying this thing on, was there any need for McLaren to continue it? I have to say, you see the comments and people raising the question, and I think there's also an element there of Mercedes. McLaren are embarking on a new relationship with Mercedes. Would they really want this relationship with Daimler to begin on that kind of a negative footing? And I do think you have to ask that, not necessarily whether it's Toto, but I think Daimler itself and McLaren, they would probably want to not upset their relationship with Daimler so early in that new relationship. So I would imagine there could be an element of that in it as well. Lawrence, we've obviously got Ferrari and Renault, though, who will be bringing this thing through. What do they hope to get out of this? Why are they continuing this protest?
So you mentioned that Renault, when they brought this protest, one of the main reasons that they did it is because of the philosophy of the sport. They want to know what Formula One will be in the future.
Right.
And what they're concerned about is this copycat nature being repeated year on year, maybe more teams picking it up. And Renault believe in the DNA of the sport, and they want the regulations to be clear cut, and they want it to say that isn't feasible going forward, and they want everyone to be an independent constructor. So part of the reason why they want to push on with this is for that reason alone. For Ferrari, well, they feel that the best course of action to defining what the FIA have said in that letter and what McLaren and Williams are hoping the FIA are going to make happen is by fulfilling this process. They want to go through with the appeals process. They want to throw their weight behind it and hope that by putting that pressure on the International Court of Appeal and ensuring that a decision made not just on the brake ducts but on the wider philosophy of the sport is clear, so that you can't make any decision there, and then that's what the FIA are going to have to follow going forward. There
is, of course, the lingering question of a car and a part that has been found to subvert the regulations, sporting regulations, and this protest that keeps going in every week, this reprimand that keeps happening every week, and obviously I think they probably want an answer over that as well, don't they?
Exactly. So Ferrari, it was notable when they said that they were going to appeal the decision, is that they also want to appeal the reprimand.
Yeah.
Now, guys, we often see a reprimand and don't think much of it because it's not a financial penalty, it's not a points penalty. There's still a significant penalty, and by protesting that reprimand, it's shown that result is in doubt.
Yeah.
And I think that would be significant points if Racing Point were to lose them. If they keep getting reprimands at each race, and the FIA International Court of Appeal decide that they can't continue in that way, then all of those results are up for grabs.
Wow. That's huge. It is huge. Is it potentially 2007 huge? Is it? Is it? I guess it depends. And then that's the big question, isn't it? Is how long does this process take? How long are we expecting it to be, or don't we know? And what are the possible outcomes? Or again, don't we know? Could it be anything?
It's not the work of a moment, so we're not going to know this weekend. We're probably not going to know in the next couple of weeks. We haven't yet got a date for the International Court of Appeal. That's in their court now. It's up to them to kind of write to the teams who've decided to fulfil this process and let them know what the process is going forward. I think we're in for a bit of a wait, Will, and that means we're going to have a series of races now which technically are going to be under provision because we aren't going to know what the result of this court case is.
Fascinating stuff. If you wanted to be sort of verbose about it, I think you could say for some teams, the way they view this is it's about the future of the sport, what the future of this sport will be, a pure constructors championship or a championship where you are allowed to be a constructor or something newly defined that is sort of a semi-constructor that's allowed parts from other teams. Does that mean a two-tier structure to the sport or what? This case could be pivotal to the future of this sport and where it goes.
It's significant, really, because it really will define what Formula One is going to be in the years to come.
Wow, huge stuff. Mate, thank you, as always, for that. We will keep you informed and updated with any developments on this and other news stories as they develop throughout this and all other weekends throughout the year. For now, though, from Lawrence and from me, from a very, very hot Barcelona, we will see you soon.